Hi everyone, welcome back to The Mystic in the Woods. I'm Kate, and it has been a minute since I was on YouTube last, but I really just needed some time to integrate some things and to do some really deep listening on my path as a priestess. And so I thought today we would just catch up. I want to talk about some of the things that have really been coming up for me personally, and I think for the collective too. So if you've been following the Reclamation Hour podcast, I don't know, do we call it subscribing over on the podcast platforms? But if you follow me over there, then you have heard Alexandra and I be a little bit more consistent than I have been on YouTube recently. But we also took a month off over there because, again, we just really needed some time to spend time with our kids, to integrate. Again, I needed to do some deep listening. We've been preparing for the next workshop or initiation coming up inside the temple, which is Plant Magic as a Sacred Feminine Mystery, for anybody who's curious. And I'm really excited about that. And as I've been prepping for that and watching what's happening in the collective, because of course the collective energy is not getting any less chaotic or any less divisive, I've really been learning a lot, from the plants and the land spirits about what we're going through right now as a collective. Now, if you follow my channel carefully, then you may have seen the video or the post that said I took that video down, because the last time I posted, I talked about all the problems that I see in the spiritual community, and I really made some people angry. And I took it down because two things. First of all, my nervous system really just didn't have the capacity to deal with the comments I was getting at the time. And so I just needed to, my husband was out of town. Here's what happened. My husband was out of town, and I knew that I did not have the nervous system capacity to be a good mom while my husband was out of town and handle the comments. So I just took it down for my mental health. And because I decided, you know what? I got a little spiteful thanks to all my Scorpio placements probably. And I thought, you know what? Fine, I'm going to talk about this stuff more, and I'm going to talk about it more in depth. And so those videos will be coming, is my point here. And I think I was also just really surprised because Alexandra and I talk about this stuff over on the Reclamation Hour podcast all the time, constantly. It comes up in every episode because being a sacred feminine being a witch, being a priestess, being a tarot reader is inherently political right now. And so it comes up all the time. Plus a core, ethic, if you will. Sorry, I'm going to get that off my screen. Of both her and I is that collective care is as important as individual care. So I was just really surprised that I had accidentally created a YouTube audience for whom this messaging would have been surprising. So we are going to talk today a little bit about bypassing and holding the duality of taking care of ourselves as individuals and taking care of ourselves as a part of the collective, because I think that these two things are not only inherently connected, but also inherently a part of the sacred feminine path. I think that this is one of the big things that the sacred feminine asks of us. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. Now, I'm going to say something first, because this is one of the things I got comments about, is that when I talk about collective care, and be really clear, because I'm not going to repeat this, not everyone does collective care the same way. I said that in the last video too, and I still triggered a whole bunch of people. So if something I say about collective care triggers you in this video, then you're probably going to want to look at why you feel triggered, because I don't think that this path looks the same for everybody. I don't think we all should be out marching on the streets or all should be doing, I don't think we should all be doing the same thing. So if that's what you take from this video, then I'm happy to have been a mirror for your triggers. But one of the things I've really been sitting with over the last 4 weeks, and I think I really jumped around topics here a little bit, sorry about that, but we are going to talk about bypassing in a moment and how it directly applies to plant magic. But I've really been sitting with what my purpose as a priestess is here. What does it mean to me to be a priestess? What are my core values here? What is my role here? And I really listened. I really did all the things that I recommend you guys do. I journeyed with my deities. I did the tarot. I did the journaling. And I really dug into this. Not just because of the comments that I was getting on that video, just to be clear. I was going on this journey anyway of really coming into authenticity personally and as a priestess. But I really spent time digging into this. And I really believe that part of the function of a priestess is community care. And so that's part of my job. And that in part looks like working with individual people, right? Because when I help enough individual people, I help the collective. But I also think part of that is naming harm. I think part of that is making sure that people who have experienced harm at the hands of other practitioners and priestesses know that they are not alone, that they're not the only people who see this problem, okay? So we're going to be talking about these types of things just over many videos coming up, not all in a consecutive row. Like the next video I'm going to record is tarot decks for working with plant spirits. But these are things you can expect here on the channel, okay? And go check out the Reclamation Hour podcast, though. I think I'm going to start posting some of those here to the channel. Partly because YouTube really likes you to post twice a week, and I don't have the energy for that, to be totally honest. But so if I post the podcast and a YouTube video every week, I've posted to YouTube a couple of times. But also because I don't want my platforms to feel separate. I want this to feel like a cohesive temple that you're stepping into when you're stepping into my world, whether you're stepping into my world here on YouTube or the podcast, or you're actually coming into like one of my mystery schools. So yeah, there's something else I wanted to say there, but it just kind of went away. So what I want to talk about here is something that, again, working with plants as a sacred feminine mystery, as I have really been prepping for this 6-week workshop that's coming up in the temple. So we're starting on Monday, September 15th, but you can join at any time and catch up and do this workshop with us. Or if you're watching this someday in the future, then that workshop/initiation will be there for you to go work through, just like the witch wound workshop is already. Now, I want to talk about spiritual bypassing, and I want to talk about holding this, again, this duality of individual healing and, collective healing, that we can actually hold both of these things. It is not one or the other. So I Googled it. And if you listen to me on the podcast and you know, like, this is the thing I do, like, I like to start us with some sort of place to start here. And when I Google spiritual bypassing, the AI overview, AI is a whole other topic we can talk about some other time if you guys want, says spiritual bypassing is a psychological defense mechanism where spiritual ideas or practices are used to avoid facing painful emotions, personal issues, or unresolved conflict. It goes on to say that instead of dealing with feelings like anger, grief, or fear, a person might dismiss them with platitudes like good vibes only, or this is all part of God's plan. And this prevents true psychological integration and healing as unaddressed negative emotions. I don't really like negative emotions, to be honest. I don't think any of our emotions are negative, but some of them are harder for us to handle. Like, I'd much rather be happy than angry, and I'd much rather be angry than feel grief. So anyway, negative emotions are pushed into the shadows and continue to weigh a person down. Now, I see this come up constantly in the spiritual community, both vocalized by other priestesses and spiritual practitioners and leaders in the community, if you will, but also just by people in the comments. This idea of, like, if you are high vibe enough, if you are high frequency enough, and I have a separate video planned on frequency because I actually have some ideas and thoughts here on how we can use that in a more helpful way. Is that, we just need to hold the frequency of love. We just need to hold the frequency of peace. And this is our job. And don't let anything distract you from the feelings and the emotions, and that these feelings are low vibe. And if you were high vibe enough, then you wouldn't be feeling this fear or this whatever. Like, I see it just on every side of the political aisle, in quotes. I see it from, it's just everywhere. Okay. And the problem is that this does real harm to us as individuals and to us as a collective, because spiritual bypassing does not help me as an individual to heal. It does not help me to be embodied. It does not help me to be happier. It is a defense mechanism because it is easier to lean into love and light only than to face the things in me that are hard. So we see this on this individual level, right? And it really just does cause a lot of problems for people. Now, this also leads us very quickly down the path of victim blaming. It leads us very quickly down the path of toxic positivity. And these are just not things that really help us. It's really just Christianity, like, wrapped up in a new name. This idea that, like, the physical plane, your physical body, your emotions, these are less. There's something wrong with them. And if only you could transcend the human experience, you'd be better. You'd be healed. Now, when we start to look through the lens of the sacred feminine, she's all about being embodied and seeing the sacredness that is the human body, that is the human experience, that is the human emotions, that is the earth and the plants and the animals, the elements, all of this. And this is one of those things that plant magic and really working with plants as allies, as sovereign allies, as guides, just like we might work with personified deity, really helps us to heal. Because plants, like us, exist here in the 3D and also as spirits on the other side of the veil that we can connect with. And so they help us to bridge these realms in such a beautiful, unique, magical way. And help us to remember that both sides of the realm are divine, or both sides of the veil are divine. Now, this comes up again when we start to look at the collective, okay? And this toxic individualism, love and light, bypassy, toxic positivity that has really skewed us into hyper-individualism that is also unhealthy, because the truth is that I cannot be healthy if my collective is not healthy. But my collective cannot be healthy if us as individuals are not healthy. And so we see this same problem come up when we look at the collective. You can take any of the far too many current events that have happened in the United States, that have happened globally, these, in quotes, political things, pick one. We just had more shootings. What is this today? Today, as I'm recording this on a Saturday, was it Thursday? Shootings, wars, genocides, all these things that are horrible. And we are shoved into this toxic individualism where it says you have to take care of yourself, you have to take care of your mental health, just look away, it's going to lower your vibration. That's a defense mechanism to not have to see and witness the hard things in the world. Now, it is important for you to take care of yourself. It is important for you to take care of your mental health. And it is true that your nervous system is not designed to take on this much at once. Your nervous system is not designed to see and take on the evil of the entire world. This is true. And we cannot use that as an excuse to look away from everything and pretend like it's not existing. Because one of the things the sacred feminine asks is for us to hold healing as an individual with healing the collective in general. Both of these things at the same time. And because, especially for women, most of us have had to do so much work around toxic people-pleasing and self-martyrdom, and that in order to be a good woman, we have to take care of everybody else at the expense of ourselves. We have done so much work around that it is so easy to get shoved into the other side of this toxic positivity. And so our spiritual practices, our spiritual path should help us as individuals. Yes, absolutely. And it should help us as individuals then heal our collective. This is going to look different for everybody, but it needs to come away from your altar and into the world in some way. Maybe you're changing and stopping, generational patterns by parenting differently. Maybe you're working with your kids' schools and the local food bank, or maybe you are doing activism and you're out in the marches and you're doing, this looks so many different ways. Some people are going to use their platforms to speak out. Some people are going to create art. It looks so different on everybody, but it should in some way spiral out and away from our altar and into the greater community. Now, of course, there are going to be moments where this isn't going to happen for you. Okay. Like I have mentioned before, I had a horrible winter. I moved through the deepest grief portal of my life. I was not able to show up for the collective. I was barely able to show up for my son. So there are going to be moments where it doesn't happen for you. And this is why it's important for us all to be doing it. Because then when I have to take a step back because of personal trauma or personal whatever, fill in the blank, somebody else is ready to step up. And it's important to recognize that we live inside of systems that make this really hard, right? For those of us who, the way that we're taught we have to work for our value and taught to parent, the way that we're taught to live makes all of this really, really hard. Now, our plant allies, our forest, our land spirits are an excellent mirror and example of this, right? An individual tree needs to heal itself when it's injured. Because this happens with trees. They lose a limb, something happens, and they heal that. But a tree cannot be healthy without healthy soil. Healthy soil requires healthy insects. Healthy soil requires other plants. It requires fungi. It requires the entire network. And so it's a really beautiful example for us of what it looks like to hold personal and collective healing at once. We have all kinds of new research about how different species of trees will send nutrients out of their roots and into other trees when needed, or send out hormonal signal. Trees actually talk to each other and connect with each other and help to heal each other, help to heal the forest. All the cool, research on mycelium networks, the forest or a garden or any landscape, this could be the desert, is an excellent example for what this can look like. And this is one of the things that as I've been preparing for the plant magic, again, as a sacred feminine mystery. So we are going to talk about spellcraft, but we're really looking at it, how do we use anointing oils? How do we use this for personal and collective healing? How do we look at this from an animistic lens and create relationships with these plant spirits and communicate with these land spirits? I'm really excited, the whole thing. And I'm really approaching it from a priestess perspective, whereas Alexandra will really be bringing in her perspective as a witch. It's going to be a really good time. But this is one of the things that has come up for me as I've been prepping for this workshop. And as I have been prepping for Sovereign Priestess, which is something that I'm running with Azrael Loom, which is a brand new mystery school designed to train priestesses. I will put the link below. More on that is coming soon. But as I've really stepped into what does curriculum look like to help teach other priestesses, and what does curriculum look like for plant magic as a sacred feminine mystery, and then looking at the collective energy not getting any easier, I'm really seeing how many people really, really struggle to hold this duality of I need to take care of myself and I need to let that overflow into the collective in some way. So more on all of these things will be coming to the channel over time. Again, I may start posting podcast episodes here. I may post Sovereign Priestess podcast episodes here. All the links for everything are below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.